Okay, it's 3:30, so we'll go ahead and get started. So my name is Jeff Essic, and I'm a librarian at NC State. I mostly work over at DHL, but spend a lot of time over at Hunt Library as well. And so I've been involved in working with GIS data and software for quite a while. I've lost track of how many years, but I actually received my degree from here back in the 90s, and then I worked in RTP for several years, and then been at the library now. So happy to be here today. This is going to be very informal. I want you to definitely participate and give me feedback and ask lots of questions. More than likely, I don't have as much to show for an entire hour and a half without some feedback and questions. So please plan on letting me know what you're interested in learning about, and we'll learn together for the most part. So the way this kind of came about was I've been an administrator for our ESRI site license for quite a while, and also administrator for our ArcGIS Online. And every time I go into the downloads section of the admin portal, I see stuff that looks like really good software that they provide and good options to use, and then it's just kind of stuck there. And so I don't think many of you have access to a lot of this. Maybe I'm wrong, but that was one thing that I've noticed that I felt like needed to just get more exposure. And then I've also just heard about other extensions and other packages that are out there that I wanted to make sure people are aware of. And so I just kind of came up with the idea that this would be a good way to share that with folks and let you know what's out there. And plus, on top of that, it's a good way for me to dive in and learn about this stuff, because I'm not really actively working on any major projects myself, and so I kind of have to teach myself what's out there and just dabble with it and see how it works. And so that's sort of what this allows me to do. So I want to show you, first of all, the download site. And so I am curious to know, I tried to get a ArcGIS Online account set up that I could test with as a student, but I ran into some issues with that and didn't get it set up in time. But I'm just curious to know if when you all go to myesri.com, if you've been there or not, and if when you do go there, what you're able to see and download, if you're able to see this software or not. This is obviously what I'm able to see when I log in, but it's we've got Pro here, we've got Desktop. Within Pro, I can go in to these downloads, and then I get a lot of different options. Are y'all able to see this, or is it not? Well, you don't have your, not too many of you have. You are? Okay. Okay, well that's good. If you don't have access to these downloads, then I usually will download them myself and put them on our library server, where we've got all these files and a link to that drive space that I'll show you where that's located. But I'm going to, I guess the size is about right. But if you'll notice, there's Pro here, there's offline help. That's good if you are going to be disconnected from the web and using Pro, then you can have all the help documents right there. So I want to tell you a little bit about what these things are, and then maybe that will be helpful. The data interoperability for Pro is a great way to do data conversions. And so if you download that and install it, it will give you a toolbox right here, data interoperability tools, and it doesn't look like much, but it's basically an import and export tools that will give you a lot of different options. And Andy Belcher here is with the campus facilities. I used to do a lot of CAD, conversions with the CAD data, and then we realized that FME is now basically built in to Pro and allows us to do these same CAD file conversions right here in this tool. If you open the input window, so it's got this list of file types that you can bring in and convert to like a feature class of some type, you know, shapefile or file geodatabase or whatever. And this is all part of what's called FME, which is a separate company from ESRI. It stands for File Manipulation Engine. They've been around a long time, and they're based in Canada, and they have a software that we used to have an educational license for, and up until they now incorporate this into Pro, so we no longer need to get that license. But the import-export is pretty straightforward, as you can see. They also provide a workbench tool over here that gives you a lot more capabilities, so that if you're importing data and you want to do something to it along with that import, then you can set up that process. And so if you're having to import data on a regular basis, this is kind of like a model builder. You can do a excuse me, you can just set up your import routine so that it brings data in, and maybe it does some calculations or does some clipping or something like that, and then gives you what you need on the back end, all in an automated way. So that is the interoperability tool. And again, it's very versatile with the formats. Indoors is something that I wanted to look at, and I downloaded and looked at it. Then I realized that you've got to have it gets activated through Portal, and so I don't think I'm going to be able to show. If you're here to learn about Indoors, I apologize. I'm not going to be able to show anything for that because it requires a Portal connection. But I know, Andy, you've looked into it some. Do you want to maybe just mention a little bit about what y'all have learned from a facilities standpoint? It's
So Indoors is a brand new product from ESRI. It's being built as a kind of asset management software package that they have not had before. So it's not a version of something previously. It's something brand new that ESRI's put out, and it's primarily geared towards wayfinding. So they have a specific data model for your floors, and you configure your floors into that model, and then you manage your floors through Indoors.
It's kind of like if you've got a campus like this, and if I wanted to know exactly where your office is, I could plug in your name and I would get the exact interior address so that I could walk straight to your door.
Exactly.
Type of thing.
It's a pretty intense software package. It's for Pro. There's no desktop version of it. It relies heavily on 3D. So there's, if you're familiar with BIM, it's not quite BIM, but it has a BIM focus. But we are currently not going down the road of Indoors. We just support it.
Yeah, and like I said, it's I think it's an up-and-coming type of thing. I'm not writing it off. I think we will probably launch into trying to figure out a way we can make it available soon, but yeah, it's pretty new.
Yeah.
So if someone is interested in learning more about it, let me know, and we'll try to figure out some way to make that happen. But because I think it will be an emerging technology that's going to continue to advance.
I'll throw it out there too. If the OIT group here at Campus NC State Office of Internet Technology has pushed some project ideas through the capstone program here at the center, and OIT is looking more at Indoors than we are have licensing for here could be factored into that and get it going.
Okay, the coordinate systems data, that is a additional coordinate systems that you can install if you are working with, getting data maybe from another country or some type of weird custom projection or coordinate system and so you're needing to convert data either from that or to a different coordinate system and you're not seeing it in the projection listings, then you would probably want to install this. So my understanding is that the ESRI projection files, there are so many of these and there's so many that get installed that, I mean, you can see if they were to include all of these, it would be an additional over a gigabyte of expand the size of ArcGIS, and so they've separated these out because they're lesser used. But if there's some that you need, then that's where it's going to be located. Okay, the aviation airports product data, defense mapping product data, indoors. These are data sets that you can use with these different add-ons or extensions or toolboxes, whatever you want to call it. And so I'm going to show you some of those tools, at least where they're located, and we'll look at what the options are. I'm not really a user of these, and so I don't have anything set up to actually show you how they're put in use, but I just want to make people aware that they exist and that they're probably good for not just those different industries. Same goes for intelligence. ArcGIS Pro for intelligence is something that is worth looking at. And military tools. These are all additional toolboxes that you can load, and so we'll look at those. And then on further down here are database connection files for Pro, and so a lot of different flavors of those. If you ever, I think there's been a few people from here that needed some of these from time to time. So, and then a SDK for Pro, and then different language packs are down here. So, has anybody pulled this up yet on my ESRI to tell me if you're able to see all this? Or you don't? Okay. I've always kind of had the impression that students did not have access, but I wasn't sure, so that's why I wanted to show. So anyway, we've got all this we can download pretty easily, and that's, like I said, that's for Pro. If we go back another level, we've got a lot of, likewise for desktop, just different. You don't need to fool with License Manager, but again, we've got data interoperability, workflow manager. That's a pretty interesting software that is intended for if you work within an enterprise and you've got all these different people out in the field doing things, and so they're reporting back what they're seeing and creating tasks that need to be handled, signs down or street lights busted or whatever, and then the workflow manager is a way to manage all of that in a way to give out assignments and keep track of who's doing what. So again, I haven't used it, but it seems like something, if you're involved in a city or municipal government, it seems like something you would want to be involved in and know about. Okay, the next is this data and maps. I'm going to look more at that in more depth. And then also there is something here called tutorial data. And so if there are different tutorials within the help documents for ArcGIS, and so this is the data that you can use if you want to do those tutorials. So I've had people ask me about, it keeps talking about data and navigate to this site and so forth, and I don't have any of that. And so this is what they're referring to if you're doing some exercises, I think within the help files. Okay, it's got military tools as well, then more database connections, and more language packs. So Laura, I introduced this and said this is very informal. Please ask questions and raise concerns. And
Did you get to the downloads page? I think I put your URL in, but
if you go to myesri.com,
I don't see either.
you don't have it?
No.
Okay.
Something about
under
condition.
my organizations,
Right, it's under My Organizations and then Downloads.
all I've got is an overview. Do I need to go to one?
Well, so that's part of what I don't know. This is what I see, but I've given a little bit higher level of administration, so.
Point of contact person.
Yeah. And so that's part of, I don't know what you're not able to see or what you are able to see,
It
so,
looks like it's under products. We don't have a products menu.
okay. Yeah,
Like we have on the left side, just overview, request permissions, and licensing forms.
okay. Yep. So that's good to know. That's why I wanted to do this, to let you know that,
If you need something from here that you can get access to, you can send it to us, or?
yeah,
Okay.
yep.
But is there any list? I was looking for any extension available for the download.
So that we could know, since we can't see it
Yeah.
directly, what to ask for.
Well, yeah, I could make a list, but it's constantly changing.
Yeah.
They're constantly doing this,
Well, I was thinking
preparing
it's
for this today, I found some new stuff, so. I don't mind making a list, except there's just always, I think the main takeaway is if there's something you read about or hear about, then contact me and I'll tell you if we've got it, and I'll try to get it to you as quick as I can. And also, I want people to know about the, right here in this folder on our geodata drive, which I can tell you the details of how to access this, but I've got a lot of the downloads here as well. So for Pro, I've put a lot of the files there. Of course, I didn't do the language packs and all the database connection files, but most of the others I've put there, and so that's a good way to get to them. All right, so how do you get to this? If you go to, what we've done here is I've mapped this network to the drive letter R, and so some of you probably know about this, but this is a server that the library maintains, and you can go to this page. It's the library's URL /GIS/geodata, and it will tell you all about this network space. And what I recommend doing is this only works for on-campus computers, mapping a drive letter to it. But you can right-click and save this little VBS file to the desktop or wherever, and then just click on that VBS executable, and it will automatically map your R drive to this server, and you will get this right here. You'll get a window that opens showing you this. And so this is where we have a lot of data, and as well as these ESRI executables. Any questions about that? There's a lot of old stuff in here, so I guess you'd say please pardon the dust and the legacy content. One of these days I'll clean it out. But
That much.
pardon me?
I have only 4 folders. You can see.
Oh, go up one level. Go up to the,
Oh, okay. It's
Yeah.
one up level.
yep, there you go.
Oh, okay.
All right, so the next thing I want to show you, I've put a lot of, there's also in here, where was it? They also have these data and content files, now this is older. I would probably have to scroll down to get some of the newer ones, but it's really rich data.
You want to just talk a little bit about, generally speaking, what's in there?
Yeah. Yeah, so I want to talk about the ESRI stuff right now. I can talk about the other as well, but
And what's the licensing on the table?
that's a question that I really, so the way they have the way they have this in here is, let me go back to it. All right, so they've got all these boundary layers. So far I've not downloaded those. Most of those you can get through ArcGIS Online. But see, they've got this one, demographic data for educational institutions. And I just found it, I think it was released just a week or two ago. And I've downloaded all of these. And then you can get to them in this space. And so I've got the zip files. If you want to copy the zip files to your own computer, they'd be a little bit smaller. The zip files in total are about 12 gigs, and then they unzip to about close to 30 gigs. And so within here are, well, that's got documents. Within here are going to be geodatabases that have just a lot of different demographic data and all kinds of stuff that may be useful. Interestingly enough, though, I cannot find anything that says like redistribution rights or, sharing or anything like that. So I want to send out some questions and find out. More than likely, I know a lot of it is third party. More than likely, they are, they want it to be used within the educational, research, learning type of uses. More gray area is if students want to do it for their projects where they're working with another company or nonprofit. And I would say definitely not sharing the files with another company. I mean, I don't think they would like that. On the other hand, they have no documentation saying don't do that. So most of the ESRI data that we've gotten in the past has had something that says this is what you're allowed to do with it. I mean, they have no enforcement. There is no ESRI police that's going to come and look around and see what's happening to their data. And it's really surprising that they provide this much to educational uses, because it is something that they also sell. But for our benefit, continued access to this data, for them to continue providing it to us, honor system, hopefully people won't abuse this ability to have this.
It seems like all of the layers you can get through ArcGIS Online.
Yes, you can. I mean, I haven't done a one-to-one comparison. I know that a lot of it is on ArcGIS Online, but that's when you're logged in with your NC State access, and so that is someone who doesn't have that organizational account would not be able to. And it also involves searching for it. So this may be a little bit easier to get it. Maybe not. Maybe ArcGIS Online is easier. But this is by and large the same data. And what I'll do, I can show you a little bit about what it looks like. So I'm remote connected to my desktop. Okay. How prevalent is pro use in here? Raise your hand if you're using it. Okay, a couple. Okay, good. I'm getting used to it. I think it's I think my guidance is it's just good to know about Pro, ArcMap, ArcGIS Online, everything. To be familiar with where all this, what all the capabilities are with all of them, because there's a lot of stuff that Pro still can't do. Okay, we'll go in here, and then we'll look at this. Yeah, so that doesn't, it doesn't look like a whole lot, but what you're seeing is the BG is for block group, CB is, I think, county, I'm not sure, I'll just open it. Congressional districts, not sure about CS. Okay, these are places, states, tracts, entire U.S., and zip codes. What would DM be? We'll see. Oh, they're what are they? CB. Some type of regional. That's county, CY. These look like, it's got, these must be congressional or, well, I'll have to pull up there's documentation on all this. Wow, those are really large polygons. Anyway, so it's got a lot of demographics tied in there. So one product I want to mention about is also in here is Business Analyst Desktop. Okay, that's right here. The Business Analyst Desktop, you see, it's got 2019 data, and then so there are two things you have to install if you want to use this. The desktop software itself, and then also it's got these data files, and it's got 6 of them that are nearly all but one, and it's almost 10 gigabytes of data. So this thing in total is over 60 gigs worth of data, and those are zip files. So when you unzip it, it becomes really large, and then so you've got to have a pretty decent hard drive just to download these files, and then to unzip them, and then to install them. It just keeps multiplying the quantity of disk space that you need. But once you have that, there's a tremendous amount of data here. And so we have this installed at Hill on one of our data workstations, and I think I've also got the 2018 version at Hunt, but I want to update that to the 2019 version. So if you want to use that, you're welcome to. The data, all of these files you can download from here, and I know that there are several people on campus that have downloaded those and are using them. What you have to do is, there's actually 2 things to install here. There's the tool itself, and then when you unzip these data files, you have to run an installer for that, and it will ask you for a license, and this is the license file to install the data for. And so I've got that installed here as well. It will install on the C drive under Business Analyst, and then you'll get a folder. This is what it looks like once the data gets installed, and so here's the main book of the data. So what would you use this for? Well, it's very similar to Business Analyst Online that you have access to through ArcGIS Online. The value of having this would be that if you're looking at something, maybe all the businesses in North Carolina or across the country. I mean, it's got all that. Also for geocoding, so it's got the premium streets data that that most people have to pay for, but they're providing that to us. And so I've had different grad students and researchers who want to geocode several million addresses. And so we can do that with this product on the desktop, whereas with, yeah, well, we've got, okay, I think the street, I can't remember if the streets is called North America. Yeah, it's North America. So it goes into, it's probably Mexico and Canada as well. And then also, there are times when people will need to do a lot of routing. So I've had situations where people need to, I think, in fact, I've got an example. So this is something I helped someone with last semester. She was looking at the shortest distances between high schools and community colleges, and I'm not exactly sure what her study was, but she had like 800 high schools, and then also similar number of community colleges, and she wanted to find what the distances were between them, and she was doing some type of matchup study. And so, you know, even though you're seeing these straight lines, the actual, that's what happens when you run the algorithm to get the routes. But the data that comes in is actually the actual street route. So don't let the straight line fool you. And so it will tell you, you know, the drive times, the distances, and all of the routes. And so we were able to use Business Analyst for this, and it's something that you really wouldn't be able to do at the online. The problem we had was wherever there was a state line crossover, because she wanted to keep it, you know, most public schools and community colleges are state run or locally. And so she wanted to keep it within state boundaries, and I could not ever find a way to set a border to prevent it from crossing the state lines. So we had to actually go through and find those one by one and do some editing so that it would not see the closest point across that state line. But so we got it to work out. But
You ever want a student to work on a project for you?
yeah. So you could do that in Python to find those? Okay. Yeah, it was one of those things I was saying, okay, what's involved? And by the time I figured out what's involved, I think there ended up being maybe 20 of them, so it wasn't too bad.
Another way to do it is split by states.
Yeah, right. Not every state had this problem. It was only just maybe half, maybe even less than half. But so anyway, that's a little bit about Business Analyst. Let me just go back. And of course, it's got a lot of different tools for learning about your customers, which is where the demographics come in. Learning about the businesses, your competition. So all of this becomes very spatial, and I feel like it's underused here. You can bring in all this data. You can run reports, and so if you're interested in starting a business somewhere, you can get a lot of demographic information about what's out there, and then what your competition you'd be facing for different sites. You know, again, I can go in. Let's see, I've got that on the C drive. And I've not updated my own computer, but so just U.S. businesses, if I open this, it's going to throw up a point for Okay, so that's looks like that's a church or something. Let's do something that's maybe, so one way to query is all of them will have a SIC number or an ASIS number, which corresponds to the type of business, so you can query based on the code number that you need. And a lot of this is coming from Info Group, which is a pretty highly respected database company that we actually buy their data through Reference USA. So we've got a database where you can query and get a lot of this, but the benefit here is that it's already mapped. But we've got Reference USA where you can query and get a table export of whatever businesses you're interested in. Have a lot of people interested in wanting to find grocery stores and things like that for looking at, access to food. Yes?
Did you said that's installed on computers at the library?
Yes. Yep. We've got it on, at Hunt we have it on Workstation A, and excuse me, at Hill. Did I say Hunt? It's at Hill on Workstation A, and at Hunt I believe it's on, I can't remember which one. I know where it is, but I can't remember the number of it. But
Probably know what the desk is.
yeah, get in touch with me because Hills needs updating. But definitely if you want to work on it at
So,
Hill, I'll
but
help you.
You can map the drive if you just VPN, right? Even if you're off campus, or no?
I don't know. I don't know if you can.
Because I was just thinking about most of my students are distant, so.
Yeah. You can access the drive like
Okay.
so you can get to it like this, but you can't select multiple files. You can only really do one at a time. I would look into that and see. But now you could through the BCL.
Right.
You could do it that way. All right, what else? So something else that I didn't know about that you may be interested in is this is called RJS Solutions and a solution deployment tool. Has anybody ever heard of that or know anything? Okay. Do you like it? Because I've seen it, but I haven't really used it. So.
Government security basement, and then I looked at it. There are lots of things you could
Yeah.
actually use.
Here's where you go to download it, to solutions.rjs.com, and then it gives you a button. Oh wow, I've gotten all these new things. I don't know. Oh, there it is. I need share. It was on the very end. So it gives you this button under share for ArcGIS Solutions, and then you have to of course sign in. So it's very tightly integrated with ArcGIS Online, and so you go to deploy, and then it's going to give you just a lot of different industries and sectors, and give you a way to I guess have tools that correspond to those. Yeah, so there's defense, and then you've got different tools here that may be relevant for the defense industry or situations. And so if anybody wants me to look at anything specific, I will. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of.
What's that sun thing? Sun position.
He'll shade at specific dates and times. So I mean, that's handy. It doesn't, you don't have to be defense. I mean, that's handy for anybody if they're doing something, maybe if you work at a botanical garden or something. Yeah, some of these are definitely cross-relevant.
Can you go back under defense and look under the like you see?
Under defense?
Yeah.
It's
and
below.
also that
Oh, yeah. So you see from the icon, it's going to, this is going to be a web app that will take you into ArcGIS Online, and then, you know, it's kind of set up to give interaction within that interface. But I would imagine that you can do, you can set up some data within Pro, and then it would transfer over to Online, or I'm not exactly sure how it works, but I think it's definitely something to explore. And if this is, you know, if there's something here that is relevant for what you're working on, then take a look at this. Like I said, I had to download a file from Esri and then install it, and this is where the it comes up under share. Yeah. Yeah, one of them that I clicked through was let's see, emergency management. It's crime. I see I've got a tab up here, crime analysis. I did click through that. I thought that would be under. Okay, so you can see it's got a check mark. Or more, let's see here. I guess I've already activated it, so then it created this ribbon up here. And it also opened up a something in ArcGIS Online, but yeah, so these are just various tools that you would use for crime analysis that have become activated. So that's pretty cool. Likewise, you know, there's military tools. This is one of the things that is, I guess I got that through the military tools that I downloaded from that download site and installed. I think here one thing that's pretty good is it's got a coordinate conversion tool, and so if you get coordinates that are in degrees, minutes, seconds, I know that it will convert those. Of course, there's other places to do that, but a lot of times, you know, in the past we've kind of resorted to using Excel and different things to convert those. But right here is a built-in converter for coordinates like that. And then it's just got different things that are kind of custom made for what you may need within a military environment. Let me go back to analysis. So here's more of the crime analysis tools here. This is the military tools, again, conversion. So of course it's handy to have them here for if you're doing Python scripting. You can go in and get the script, load into maybe a model or something.
Can you right click on one of those and see if it tells you the path or go to the properties?
Oh. Not seeing it, are you? We're looking for the path.
Yeah, like this is pointing to the script or something.
Yeah, it's probably this stuff. It's getting installed in some pretty deep down into the, somewhere in program files or program data or under, I don't think it's on the user profile, but so out of the box you get a lot of this, but then like I said, I've installed the intelligence tools, and so I'm going to keep them and try to learn more about what's here, but I think they've got relevance for just a lot of different, you know, if somebody's got this data set and they need to convert it or select out or manage it in some oddball way, and so it's just a lot of different possible ways with these different tools to do things now. So a lot of these tools are also in ArcMap if you're wanting to use them there as well. But Esri is definitely supporting and doing their emphasis of development within Pro. There's one that I found that's under, okay, it's the Geoanalytics desktop tools. And so this is out of the box, at least with version 2.4, I think. And it's, when you look at it, it's got a lot of the same things that, you know, we may already have, like manage data, calculate field, clip layer, dissolve. I mean, we've already got these elsewhere. And I thought, why are they making a new toolbox with the same things? Create buffers. And so then I read the little help here about it, and this is intended to be used with big data sets. It won't stay up, but it's intended, I think, for like you know, millions of records or more, and it will work really fast. So let me just somewhere it provided me with a little bit more information. Like maybe it was online. All of these have web pages that you can learn about some more about them. But yeah, it's intended to be used for just really large data sets, and it uses a Apache algorithms, which I wasn't very familiar with. Are you, Laura? Apache Spark, that's what it was. Somehow they're coded or written in a different way so that they're able to process faster, larger data sets.
ArcMap still uses old ArcInfo algorithms in the background, like when you click the button, the old ArcInfo command line thing runs and then brings it back.
Right.
So they must have written some of those algorithms, including parallel processing and, you know, things that would faster.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. So that's something, you know, if you've got a lot of data, you know, go to these, use these tools instead. Let me think what, okay, any other questions? I want to show you a little bit within ArcGIS Online, and but we've still got plenty of time if you've got any more questions or anything specific you want to look at. I hope this isn't too boring.
I just want to point out that my Esri website, you know, I actually, when I open it, I only see 3 tabs at the top where you had like a tag. Like I only have overview, licensing, and support.
Yeah.
It's like you have all kind of other stuff there that I don't have. Right. So can you, like, we do need to email you to ask you permission, like, to add us to, so we can.
I don't know if, I'm not sure what so I've got like tech support access with Esri, and OIT has, the site license administrators have kind of picked the people to have this, and I don't know how many people they want to allow that to, or how, you know, if they probably want to keep it somewhat controlled. The downloads, I think you can definitely ask for download access. There's training, and let me see what that, okay, so this, most of these I hardly ever go into, but I think I can pull up people's records maybe, or to see how much training is being done. We used to, you remember the days of virtual campus where we had to request codes? I think this is the evolution of that. And so we can see how much training is being taken here, and that may take a while, but now here's where, if you want to go to the conference, I can request I can register you for complimentary access to the ESRI conferences.
There's one that my mother was there this year.
This is, so the other weird thing is that I'm looking at NC State's organization. Our site license is we have a NC State license, but it falls under the UNC system-wide site license. And so if I go to that one, that's not how it looked before the conference. I don't know. We had plenty. We typically have, there will be like 5 allocated for every campus, and we come nowhere near using all of those. So I may just need to.
So you can allocate one from like all of, any of the campuses, or are we limited to 5, for instance?
That's Chapel Hill. Zero, well, it says 0 remaining because the conference is over. That's why it's like that. Yeah, there were like, there's usually at least 30 or more available. So don't ever worry about whether or not we've got, you can go to the conference as far as that goes. Yeah, as long as you can afford to get there. Right, right. So anyway, yeah, there's different things here, but yeah, if you want access to this, contact Bill Coker at OIT, or I can send you his email, because he's the main. He can do things I can't do, so he's kind of in charge of all of it. But he's. Pardon me?
Do you also have tickets for the developer summit?
Yeah, well, now I don't know, because I'm not sure if that's covered by our site license. Talking for the recording, we're talking about the Developer Summit. So for example, the Southeast Regional Users Conference is not part of our site license, and so it actually costs about the same, maybe even more, to go to the Southeast Conference, because you do have to pay for registration, even though the travel distance is shorter. But because we get free registration for the user conference, that really helps with that cost. But I don't know about the Developer Summit. Bill would know about that. He's been to that. Bill Slocum. Yeah. Okay, I want to show a little bit here. So one of the things that you can do within ArcGIS Online is, if you go to the content, and then you can pull down all of these, what are these called? Apps or something? Yeah, options. So one of them is Insights. Has anyone ever used Insights? It's pretty neat. It's worth exploring. This is what it looks like when you open it, and you'll get a, or at least I think maybe you have to start a workbook. And then you can add data, which I've already done. This just comes out of your content holdings. So I've got different content, so you just pick what you want to add. And then they look like this, and so it's definitely got a mapping aspect to it, but it works very differently than GIS, most GIS software. And it also is I would say it's more like Tableau if you've ever used that for just visualizing data. So we've got here, what I've done is I've gotten national parks data. And this first one is national parks, and I've just got the centroids for the parks. So I can open that table, and it's got all the different park names, and then it's got some different data related to those. And then you can also go to the Park Service and download a lot of use data. So I've done that. This is use data for 2000 through 2018. And so I've actually got one record for every month of the year. So it's a lot of data. So for 2000, we've got a monthly record for this one Abraham Lincoln Birthplace National Historic Park. And so there's one problem with this, and I'll tell you a little bit, to give you a little bit more background. I wanted to learn about insights last year, and so to force myself to learn about it, I scheduled a workshop and so prepared some exercises for the workshop. And so we had that back in March, and it went well. I'll be glad to do it again. We don't have it scheduled again right now, but it went really well. One thing we learned, though, it took a while. We said, okay, what data are we going to use? What what exercises are we going to have? Now, one of my colleagues at the library, Mia Partlow, also was very involved in putting this together. And so we decided to use this national parks data. There's a lot of data here that we were able to pull in, and it's pretty interesting to work with. One of the problems we had was that the month numbers, we really need leading zeros for these numbers for some of the sorting exercises and stuff. And so we fixed that, and then this week when I was looking for that, and I don't know, I couldn't find it. I don't know what happened, but the data that we used for the workshop did have leading zeros, so that kind of messes up, the fact that I don't have it here kind of messes up some of these results, but I was out of time for fixing it. Anyway, what you can do is create a relationship between these two, which is more or less a join. And so we can go in and say we want to set up a relationship, and then we tell it the way that this kind of specifies the way the data is combined, and we had to play with all this quite a bit. But the unit code is the ID that we can join them with. And so now I've got I can't see my, there we go. And so then it creates a relationship, and I'm not sure if that's going to work right, but let me show you the one that I know does work right. And so then I can come in and say, okay, I want to see by state and recreation visits, and create a some type of chart of that. And so very easily I can create graphs and tables and charts. If I want to look at this as a map, then I have to go in and do a data enrichment. And so this is, let's see, rename. Okay, I can do that map. So I can look at a map that way. This is where I remember having to do an enrichment and pull in data from the Living Atlas, and then we were able to do more mapping type visualizations. But to be honest, it's been several months since I did that. I don't remember exactly all the steps. It's not too complicated, but it does take a little bit of time to figure out. But as you can see, it's very different than the normal GIS interfaces.
That you used to get the little,
Right here.
no, back to how you got into insights.
Oh,
Menu was
yeah.
on the,
it's this drop down up here off of ArcGIS Online. And there's all kinds of other things there too. This is the workshop results that we had. So this is where we've got a actual map. And so I can go into these and I can customize, you know, my ranges, my break points, the fields that I want to use here. I think we had to do a calculation to get this column, this data hours per visit, but that was all part of the workshop. So I've got the workshop materials. If you want to have those and walk through this, you would get a lot better sense of how this works. But yeah, the workshop was about an hour and a half or so long, and we went through a lot of the different processes.
So can we publish this?
Pardon me?
ArcGIS Online?
Oh, yes.
Do you have a actual published? No?
Let's see here. That one thing you've got to do is it's kind of different than a lot of cloud stuff. You have to hit save for things to somewhere. Oh, down here is where you can do some more kind of spatial type. Aggregate, enrich. Enrich, that's where we brought in the state data. Calculate density. Let's see, how do you publish?
Jeff, did you deal with some kind of a large amount of data with this?
Yeah.
I'm curious if it's
it will.
going to do well if it's like if you're loading 10 gigabytes of data to it.
Okay, great question. So,
Tableau Online does not do that.
right. So this is the ArcGIS Online version. And you're limited to pretty much, they've got limits of, 10,000 records or something of what you can upload in a data set for ArcGIS Online. There is also an Insights version that you can run on server, and that's much more capable of larger big data. So yeah, they've got a server version, which I have not used, but I would presume it's somewhat similar. It may be more tied into Pro, kind of leverage the Pro interface. I'm not sure how that looks, but that's. I'm sure it's really fast though, where you could take really large data sets and very quickly visualize what you've got. You were asking about sharing. I mean, there's bound to be. It's part of. It's in.
I think should be able to
Well, here we go.
somehow.
Yeah, so here's what I've got, and so I can go here, open in Insights. I can share it this way. I can share the item. I'm not sure if you've got the if you just want to send this to somebody. I remember we did that, but I don't remember how.
so if you share your workshop instructions.
Yeah. Let me know if you're interested, and I'll be glad to. Okay. Oh, Arcade. Anyone looked at Arcade or know what I'm talking about? Okay, so I wish. So Arcade is a way to customize one of these tabs. Must be, maybe I closed it. Yeah. Arcade is a scripting language similar to, I think it resembles JavaScript. But if you'll, these are public libraries in North Carolina. So I can click on a dot and I get a, I get what I want, some information, but that's kind of a bland pop-up. So Arcade is Esri's way to customize these pop-ups. And there's probably more you can do it as well, but that's what when I was at the conference they were demonstrating. Right here, so you go to configure pop-up, and then you get this ability to add expressions in here, and you can add media, yeah, just different expressions. And I was wanting to, I'm sure you can go out and grab some code to paste in, and I was hoping to have time to play with that a little bit, but I just didn't get to it. But Arcade is the language that you can use to, like what I saw was they had, really impressive pop-ups, so you can connect to external servers and stream in maybe some maybe stream gauges or something, or something that's happening in real time, and then you can see that changing in real time. So connect to external through WFS or something. Can definitely include images and videos and things like that within your pop-ups there. So if you're doing a lot of development work with ArcGIS Online, I definitely recommend learning about Arcade and how that works. The marketplace, ArcGIS Online Marketplace, are you familiar with that? That is, no. So that's what this is, and it's just a lot of different add-ins and apps that they have that, third party for the most part, but some of them are Esri. And so a lot of these do have a cost involved, but you can go and you can select to look at the free ones, and whether there are 44 free ones, although some of these still have some limitations. And then there's trial as well, and so forth. So, and it's broken down by industry. So has anyone used any of these or know about anything? Yeah. SafeGraph is one I looked at recently with someone. It's got a lot of business listing data, and I think I was really impressed with what they have. On the other hand, it was there was too much data. The machine was choking at the time, so you have to zoom in to a certain scale for it to start showing up. Here we go. So I think that's what you get. There may be SafeGraph places. I don't know of a way to export that, or maybe there's ways to analyze it, filter it, and stuff like that, though. Yeah. Cluster, and so that's pretty cool. I'm not sure how they're making money. What they're in it for.
They reached out to probably some other people too, recently, saying that hey, until August the 31st, they have created 6,500 data.
Oh, okay.
Download, and then they create an account and download a few things, and then they hope that you buy more
I got you. Okay. So
It's not
it's,
just free data. They might be showing there, but I don't think they're giving you the data.
okay. Or maybe it's free for now, and then they're going to
I'm sure
cut
it's
back.
free to you.
Yeah, right. I, okay. Gumby's, well, that's accurate. They're on Hillsborough Street. So is there anything else? Anybody have any questions? Or I hope you've learned a little bit so far. Again, the documentation I've found is ESRI. If there's a tool, like if you're in Pro here and you're curious about, military tools or something, just Google it, and the documentation is pretty good when it shows what you can do. And it would be nice sometimes they would have more illustrations, but it's pretty descriptive, and it should be helpful. And again, I think these are tools that will, just because it says military or something like that, I think it's relevant for a lot of different uses. I think I've talked about, I haven't looked at ArcMap. This has Business Analyst. If you were to install Business Analyst for ArcMap, that's one thing I should clarify. When you're in Pro, it has Business Analyst tools here out of the box. And so you can do a lot of different things here with analysis. But if it's going to, some of these, they don't have the message, and then others, let me see. A lot of these you'll get a message that says that if you run this, it's going to consume credits. And so it's working with ArcGIS Online. And of course, that's not really a big deal. We've got lots of credits, so feel free to use that. But this kind of gets into where, again, if you've got a lot of data, then you may want to use the desktop. If you go to environments, so right now I don't know if that's defaulting to online or if it's defaulting to what I have on my computer. I can go to a computer and force it to use what I have local. But yeah, you can run these business analyst tools within Pro. If you're using ArcMap, you definitely have to install the tool, and then it will use what's on your desktop computer.
What are some of the things, you mentioned that there are things that you can do in desktop that you still can't do yet in Pro?
There is a web page that lists a lot of those, and
And do they
it may.
say in the list like we're planning to implement this, or we're going to drop this?
A little bit more.
Well, I mean, yeah, like personal geodatabases are being phased out,
Right.
and as well as coverages. Let me see. There's feature compare. No, I've run across a page that it's an ESRI page, then it lists an up-to-date, tells you exactly what Pro does not yet have. I can't remember what it's called. I'll send that link to you. I'll find
I
it.
just wondered like what common things, if there was anything that you come across where
Used to be there was parcel editing, but they've taken care of that. So I don't know of anything major really. Okay, yep, sure. Yeah, I'm sure there's some big thing. There may be a few big things yet, but I will say that the Pro, whenever they release a Pro update, I highly recommend trying to install it because it's probably got a lot of stuff in it that, you know, bug fixes. These earlier versions are usually there are pretty significant improvements over the prior version. Like the difference between 10.7.1 and 10.7 or 10.6, you're really not going to notice a whole lot, but with Pro, I think you notice a lot of improvement.
Tried to work through a 3D tutorial, wouldn't work I had a very early version.
Yeah. Do not, if you have Arc Pro 1, get rid of it because it's going to be really buggy, and definitely try to get on the latest 2.4. There's a lot online. We had a speaker at the last GIS conference. What's his name? Trip. Yeah, he was very gracious. You have to pay to go to one of his workshops, and he gave a all morning long workshop on how to migrate to Pro, and we've got that recorded in video on our conference website. So, I'd recommend that's free, whereas he normally would probably charge several $100s for that. Yeah. Any other questions? And definitely get in touch with me anytime if you have anything else you're curious about. I will say, Esri stuff is great, but I try to strike a balance between that and also QGIS and GRASS and all the other software as well. So I encourage people to look at those also. We're kind of in a very interesting time. We've got 4 packages that are very capable of doing a lot, and you can go in multiple directions depending on your needs. But ArcGIS Map or ArcMap, I guess it's probably going to fade away, but there are some advantages to still knowing what it can do and using it. But Pro, ArcGIS Online, and then QGIS, and 3 or 4 of those have some real definite advantages and some disadvantages, but it's worth being familiar with all of those to be really savvy and capable, and probably going to, whatever job you get into is probably going to require one of those at least. But when people come in the library and say they need to make a map or want to use GIS in some way, we kind of have to, right from the very beginning, we have to decide what direction to go in with them, and so have to figure out, okay, is this something you want ease of use, or are you going to be sharing it with other people, or are you going to be, are you intimidated by, major software, and in that case, probably ArcGIS Online is going to be the best bet. But if it's something where they're doing some pretty intensive research, they're going to be working on it a while, and then maybe if they're affiliated with NC State, maybe staff, or there's reasons to definitely go with a desktop Pro or ArcMap, or if it's somebody who you can offer the option of QGIS that's going to be free if they're about to graduate, and this is something that they haven't had any classes, GIS classes, and they're wanting to really learn, but they're on the verge of graduating, then QGIS is a good option. So they'll be able to continue using that after they're out of the off campus. So, well, thank you. Glad you're all here, and appreciate your time.